Hello and welcome back. I'm so happy to be here again and happy to have you tuning in. I'm excited to talk today about a book that completely left a mark on me. I read this book years ago and I still vividly remember the characters. And when you've read hundreds of books in your life like I have, that's a pretty incredible feat that I still remember the plot points and especially the characters. And that incredible book is The Alice Network by Kate Quinn. Now, this is a historical fiction, and I want to preface by saying sometimes that genre gets a bit overlooked. It's not as trendy, and it often in bookstores, if you go in, isn't right at the door or really flashy or on promotion a lot. And I think it's because people hear historical fiction and assume boring or not as interesting. And that is so wrong. This incredibly moving and beautiful book, like I said, changed my life. And to get into a bit of the plot, this follows a dual timeline story. So we have one timeline happening, and it flips every chapter. One is happening during World War I, and the other is happening just after World War II. And what's incredible is as you go through the book, you realize, one, why we have both timelines and how some of the characters are maybe connected, but it's a mystery. So each chapter you're digging and digging at the plot, trying to find out how they're connected, why it matters. And the beauty of this book is the story of the Alice Network, which is the title. And so I didn't know this is based loosely off of real events, but the Alice Network was a female-led underground society of spies during World War I. And they basically had an incredible impact and helped with the war by being, overlooked oftentimes, as women have been a lot in society, but especially at the time around the 1915 when the war was happening. And our main character, Eve, is recruited into the Alice Network when she is young during World War I, and we follow her journey in that timeline and then in present day. And the story of resilience and power and standing up for yourself and what you believe in was so inspiring to read as a girl in her 20s, and I found myself really getting lost in the book. I would forget to pick up my phone or scroll on social media because the story was so good, and the mystery piece of it, that's why this book can honestly transcend so many genres. There's also a really touching and beautiful love story, both in the past timeline of World War I and in the current one that we're in around 1947 after World War II. And I vividly remember, of course, like I said, Eve, our main protagonist, who is part of this Alice Network, but also our second protagonist, who we're following in present day, and she's trying to uncover a big family secret and save her cousin. And who does she ask for help? Eve. So then they form this beautiful bond. They're both these strong women who their entire lives have kind of been told, yeah, your voice doesn't matter that much or you can't achieve that much. And they together just realize that's not true at all. And as you follow, there will be a lot of emotional moments and a lot of, oh my God, jaw-dropping moments. And with all that being said, to prove it just a little more, I have two quotes that I would love to share just to show how beautiful it's written as well. Kate Quinn is incredibly talented. And so the first one is, poetry is like passion. It should not be merely pretty. It should overwhelm and bruise. I adored that. When I read that, I thought, what a great way to encapsulate something as difficult to talk about as war, because amidst all of that tragedy and overwhelmingness and hardship, you still found love and light through art and through romantic relationships while all of that was going on. And that quote in particular is talking about when they try and have a little bit of a happy moment by reading some poetry and falling in love with art. And it's just that duality of finding lightness in something like poetry while a war is going on. So I thought that stood out a lot, and it definitely resonated with me. And then the second quote I have here near the end of the book. There we go. This one definitely made me tear up a bit. Hope was such a painful thing, far more painful than rage. And I think that can be applied to anyone in their life. I think when we get hopeful about the outcome of something, whether it's in university or work or with friends or a relationship, that hope and almost delusion and the idea of something can build up so greatly. And that can be so detrimental and painful if what you hope for doesn't come to be true. And this book talks about that a lot really beautifully. And so I resonated, of course, as a young adult, because you're really hopeful for how your life is going to turn out. But sometimes it doesn't go how you hoped. And having those high expectations really hurts and cuts deep, because it was never promised to you. You just had the hope for it. So it was nice to feel seen and relatable in a very different context of a historical fiction, but still that hope piece. We're all human and we all feel it, and I loved reading about it. But I will leave you with that. I hope I convinced you enough and eloquently talked about this book, because truly it is gorgeously written, and like I said, you will just fly through it. Even if it's a genre you don't normally read, I highly, highly, highly recommend.